Hello music lovers, welcome to the channel. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. You know, when Dennis DeYoung, formerly of Styx, isn't singing about his babe of 50 years or writing songs about robots, he often laments the decline of America the way that he sees it. And this time around, he's taking aim at the media and all their grand illusions, meatballs and Barbie dolls, and breaking news that can go sail away on the river Styx for all he cares. In this video, I'll review his angry new tune with all due respect. We'll learn some new words like bloviate and stunad. There'll be misinformation designed to split the nation, a channeling of Samuel L. Jackson, and I'll give you my review of Dennis's new album, plus more. So take your seats and don't be late. We need your spirits high because we're about to get pissed in paradise. Well, Dennis DeYoung, formerly of Styx, just dropped a new solo album, 26 East Volume 1. There will be a Volume 2 at some point in the future. It will be his final solo release, and he's looking to get back on the road whenever he can. He's experienced a little bit of a resurgence lately. During the lockdown or the quarantine or whatever prison term you prefer to use, he decided to record his own version at home of the old Styx classic, The Best of Times, and it went over really well. He's gotten over 1 million views on YouTube. That's a lot of views, folks. Certainly better than anything Styx is doing. If you go over to the Styx World YouTube page and you go looking at some of their more popular videos lately, Tommy Shaw does some stuff with an orchestra. Great stuff. But it took 2 years for them to reach over 1 million views on that, whereas Dennis only took him a couple of months. Sounds to me like Dennis's songs are really resonating with people. And of course, The Best of Times is a song that Styx doesn't even touch live because certain people, they just don't like it for whatever reason. In the meantime, Dennis just dropped a brand new video for his song With All Due Respect, which is a tirade aimed right at the media, and we'll be digging into that in just a bit. But in terms of the video, it's a homemade video, and of course, everybody had to come up with the best background that they could. The drummer kind of set the tone. He had the nice black curtain behind him. Dennis, the best he could do, I guess, was sit at his desk. Although I heard he did try to shoot it in his bathroom and use the Kilroy was here shower curtain behind him, but I think there was just too much echo. Now this track, With All Due Respect, could have easily been a Styx song. It's a great rockin' tune, probably Dennis DeYoung's best ever solo track. Let me know what you think about that. A great riff here by Jim Peterick, and Dennis is really pissed off at the media, talking about how they can take their misinformation designed to split the nation, shove it up their ass, and go to hell. I mean, he really has a lot of venom here. And why is that? What is Dennis's problem? Well, we're gonna find out that this is something that's been brewing for many years, and it's been all over Styx's lyrics and on their album covers and in their themes. And this is what Dennis had to say about the media and how they operate. He says, "I hate the way we receive news. It's been bastardized into a form of entertainment, sensationalism, just meant to attract viewers. Been that way for a long time and getting worse. It drives us apart. It needs to stop." We can probably go back to a Styx song called Sweet Madam Blue from 1975, where Dennis talks about how America was heading into the wrong direction. Here's what he had to say about writing that song. He says, "I had grown up in the so-called glory days of the United States of America, which was post-World War II until 1970. To live in this country at that time was really the golden age. The fallibility of the United States was something that struck me and that set the tone for Sweet Madam Blue. Maybe I was fearful of being literal. I think I probably was." And so just a couple of years later, 1977, he's writing this album, The Grand Illusion. And the theme of this song and this album is how, you know, we put these celebrities up on pedestals and we make people out to be more than they really are. And he was basically just telling people, look, don't look at me like I'm something special. I'm just some schmuck who kept failing until I finally won. And you can do it too. I'm no better than you. And so he's talking about this back in 1977. And what's interesting is how the celebrities that he was talking about were more like the movie stars and stuff like that. But now the celebrities have become the news anchors. News anchors are entertainment. Now they're the celebrities as well. And so we're going to talk about that, but it's interesting how that all came about. And then a couple of years after that, on Borrowed Time, he writes about not knowing who to believe. when it came to left and right politics. And then we get to 1981, another couple years later, on Paradise Theater, continuing this theme of disillusionment. The Paradise Theater album, this album, you can just take a look at the album cover. Front cover shows a theater, opening night. Everybody's dressed to the hilt, getting ready to pack into this place and see a show. You turn it over and the theater is closed, abandoned. Nobody gives a shit. And this was kind of his metaphor for America. And it actually was a fictional account of the real theater. There is or I should say there was, a real Paradise Theater in Chicago from about 1930 or so to about 1960. And this was not a theater where you went to go see movies. It was for plays and stuff like that. But once the talkies or the films started to come out, this place was not meant to go see films. It had these big cavernous dome top and everything, and you couldn't see movies there. So eventually it got abandoned, it got shut down and demolished by 1960. And so this is why Dennis starts off Paradise Theater with his AD 1928, closes it out with AD 1958, roughly the time that the theater came and went. So he's already lamenting America and its demise as far back as 1981. Now, taking it a step further, 1983, Kilroy is here. Instead of going back into the past and looking at an old theater, he's looking to the future as to where things could possibly be headed. The story of Kilroy was here, tells a story of censorship, totalitarianism, and also the dangers of too much technology. And I'm telling you, this seems kind of familiar, doesn't it? These are themes that don't sound so foreign, do they? And it's kind of interesting because I think about these albums that are set into the future. A lot of rock stars do this. A time when music is banned and there's no more creativity, no more individuality. You saw this with Rush and 2112, and you start thinking to yourself, well, how could this ever happen? How could a society ever allow this? This is actually crazy. Folks, I'm starting to see how something like this could possibly happen. The way it happens is fear. That's right, people getting bullshitted and they're fearful and they give up everything, because when people are fearful, they will give up their rights, they'll give up their, whatever it is, just to get a sense of safety, the perception of safety and security. And so Dennis can see this coming, and it's really a shame that Kilroy was here didn't become a big major album. I don't think it was done right. The concept is brilliant, wasn't executed right, but would have been cool if Kilroy could have been the next Tommy, but that didn't work. And then a few years later on the track Show Me the Way in 1990, Dennis looks for guidance in a world filled with hatred. On his last solo album from 2007, 100 Years From Now, there's a song on there called I Don't Believe in Anything. And he talks about how, he hates the neocons and the liberals and how they're all a bunch of full of shit hypocrites. There's a song called Turn Off CNN, where he writes about all the bad news on television just wanting to make you cry. And now on his latest album, 26 East Volume 1, there's With All Due Respect, where he rips the asshole media and tells them that they don't deserve any respect. And, when I was reading through these lyrics, it made me think about certain things. And I can't say that this is what Dennis was thinking about, but certainly there were some things here that meant a lot to me, and I'd be very curious to see what you guys think about these lyrics too. So let's take a look at the first batch of lyrics from this tune. He says, on the TV talk shows, on the radio, the talking heads put on their show. They got the answers, these pundits do, in ruby red and royal blue. Now, what's interesting here is he immediately talks about the red and the blue. It doesn't matter what side you're on, what channel you watch. It's all the same bullshit. We're talking about the media who are owned, okay? They're not their own entity giving you their point of view, trying to find the truth for you. They are owned. They're puppets. Who owns the media? Corporations. Well, who owns the corporations? As it goes further up and up, less and less people control more and more people. It kind of looks like this, very much. How do you keep all these people in line? How do you keep people from doing things that you don't want them to, or believe in things that you don't want them to? You control perception, and you do that through the media. Okay, we're talking about these very few people who control not just the media, but they control the banks. They control control the resources. You know, they control gas and oil and all this stuff too. What is their agenda? What are they trying to push? Maybe if we take a look at what the media is trying to push, maybe we can sort that out. But it's infiltrated everything. It's not just the television news. As he talks about here, it's also TV talk shows. When I think of talk shows, I think of The View, this morning talk show with comedians Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar. It's like, who gives a shit what these comedians think about politics? You know, and they're so divisive, and they're filling people's heads with so much bullshit. Even the late night talk shows too. Remember when we had a lot of fun with Johnny Carson and Ed McMahon, family fun, lots of great creativity, and now it's just a bunch of divisive political bullshit, making late night television toxic with these fucking knuckleheads, Colbert, Kimmel, totally unwatchable now. Now, for this next round of lyrics, we're going to learn a brand new word. I have a feeling Dennis DeYoung had to get his thesaurus out to write this lyric. Have you ever heard of cognoscente? That's right. It means people who are considered to be especially well-informed about a particular subject. So, of course, we're talking about these talking heads on television, right? Because they know everything. We need to trust them. That's right. We need to trust them. And they set a good example for us. Remember that. So in the song, he says, but watch out, these cognoscente. Hot dog, they sure know plenty. They remind us night and day. And talks about if he ever met one, he'd walk right up and greet them and say, basically, with all due respect, you are an asshole. You make me sick. With all due respect, you don't deserve no damn respect. Now, since when did the talking heads on the news become so trusted? You know, why do we love them so much? Why do we listen to them? You know, this is something kind of like what I talked about earlier with the Grand Illusion. These news anchors, they've become celebrities. And, you know, news never used to be 24 hours. It started back in 1980 with CNN, but not everybody had cable. I know for myself, I didn't get cable until like the mid to late 80s. And, you know, it really didn't come into play, I don't remember, until about 91 with the Persian Gulf War. A lot of people watching the news 24 hours when you're at war, right? But it really exploded with the O.J. Simpson case around 1994, 1995. I mean, hell, we watched the police chase O.J. Simpson. We watched the trial. It was like a reality show. It might have been the first reality show. We had all the talking heads, everybody speculating on what the hell was going to happen to OJ and all the jargon that came out of that whole mess. And then, of course, a few years later, we had Monica Lewinsky and that whole thing with Clinton. And so I think this period of the mid to late 90s is when news really became entertainment and entertainment became news. And we started to grow attached to these news anchors and these pundits. And we started to have our favorite because we were watching news constantly, leaving it on in the background. And as we get into this next batch of lyrics, it also helps explains how the news further has its grips on us. He says, but all these know-it-alls, meatballs, and Barbie dolls with breaking news and all the facts, breaking news and heart attacks. We come to realize and shouldn't be surprised they're hiding this behind their backs. They're partisan hacks. Now, when I think about meatballs, aside from my mother's cooking, you know what I think about? I think about this guy from CNN. What a fucking meatball this guy is. As a matter of fact, I also think about this guy, Archie Bunker, and what he calls his freeloading son-in-law. Meathead, that's right, meathead, dead from the neck up. There's a few things with Cuomo. Remember this bullshit about him coming out of the basement for the first time after he was quarantining himself since he had been sick, and he was coming out of the basement for the first time. We're supposed to believe that. His family is standing there waiting for him. Yeah, they look like they haven't seen him in such a long time. They're, you know, Daddy, Daddy, I haven't seen you since breakfast. Anyway, it all came out that he was out like on Easter weekend before that. He was out with his family. It wasn't his first time coming out of the fucking basement, but he was trying to get you to, he was trying to show you this is how you do it. This is how you come out of quarantine. You're supposed to separate from your family, and this is how you do it. Aren't I setting a good example for you? You know what I have to say to you? I got a new word for you. Vaffangulo. So here's another meathead story for you. Remember this couple from St. Louis who they're just about to have dinner, and all of a sudden 200-300 people outside their house, or I should say they're protesters, according to CNN. Yeah, protesters that threaten to burn your house down, threaten to kill your dog, and breach your property. And so these two are just standing there with their guns trying to defend themselves because, I don't know, maybe some cities got looted recently, maybe a police precinct got taken over. I don't know, just a thought, we might be in some trouble here. So what does Meathead do? He has this guy on the show and immediately goes after him. And he says, how do you feel about becoming the face of political resistance in the anti-BLM movement? To which the guy replies, I'm not the face of anything. I'm just trying to defend myself. So why doesn't this meathead have some kind of compassion for this guy who almost had his house burned down? Instead, he goes after him, trying to fit him into a narrative that his own network created. As a matter of fact, with some undercover audio captured recently, this is what Cuomo had to say about his job. He admits, he says, I don't like what I do. I don't value indulging irrationality, hyperpartisanship. It's not worth my time. So this meathead knows that what he's doing is wrong and divisive. So what does he do? He re-ups another contract. Well, you know what? Here's another word for you. Stunad. And then we have CNN caught lying about Russian collusion. They were for years talking about how the president of the United States was colluding with Russia. And then we also had some undercover audio of the CNN supervising producer talking and admitting about the whole Russia collusion story was absolute bullshit, and they only did it to get ratings. And then it came out officially not long ago that the whole Russia thing was in fact bullshit. And then there's Fox News, who of course come across as fair and balanced. Well, as fair and balanced as you can possibly be when you've got corporate sponsorships and people kind of dictating what you can and can't say. Look, you don't have any platform in this country with any influence unless you are bought and sold. Let's get that straight. And of course, Fox recently caught up in a scandal, photoshopping images to, pull out your heartstrings to get their story across the way that they want to get it across. So if CNN has the meatballs and Fox News has the Barbie dolls, right? I mean, let's face it. When's the last time you ever saw an unattractive woman on Fox News? They got their legs out there, and of course, they'll give you the nice smile. And this is all meant to, get you to watch and keep watching and to trust them more and more. And now I'm not saying that these women are not working hard. I'm not saying that they're not smart or good at what they do, but there's definitely a pattern with, Fox News always hiring beautiful women because they want you to watch. This is about getting your eyes on the television set. This isn't about getting to the truth. This isn't about, digging and trying to, expose things in the government that shouldn't be happening. This isn't about that. This is about ratings. This is about selling more products. This is about you trusting the meatballs and the Barbie dolls that they're putting out in front of you. And it is a line of bullshit. And so we got a new word, bloviate. Talk at length, especially in an inflated or empty way. Dennis goes on to say, take all your bloviatings jacked up to spike the ratings, and all that fear you're trying to sell, all that beer you're trying to sell, and put misinformation designed to split the nation straight up your ass and go to hell. You go to hell, he says. Pissed off. Dennis is really, when's the last time you ever heard Dennis say this kind of stuff? When I saw the word bloviate, I immediately thought of Rachel Maddow. Remember when she was like, I've got the president's tax returns, and we're going to see what's in them. And you know what was in there? Nothing. It was all a bunch of hype, and then bullshit. Nothing. All meant to try to tug at your heartstrings, whip you up emotionally, make you think certain things, make certain connections, and then just left you with absolutely nothing. Are you seeing a pattern here, folks, with a lot of empty bullshit and manipulation? Well, you know what? It's no secret that the government has some plants that are put directly into the news to get their narrative, their agenda out to you and to shape your version of reality. Former CIA Director William Casey famously said this, we'll know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. So it's one thing to talk about the media distorting things, but what is the end result? What is the impact on us, America, the world, when the media distorts reality? I know for myself, I have a friend of 20 years. One day recently, I get an email out of the blue, basically saying, if you don't believe this or believe that the way I do, then I can't be your friend. I was shocked to see this kind of email. It was hurtful. Somebody I know this many years basically saying, if you don't believe what I believe, then we can't be friends. And I'm seeing this attitude a lot more. If you don't believe what I believe, not only shouldn't I talk to you, but you shouldn't even be able to say what you think, because it doesn't fall. It's almost like politics has become a religion. It's like politics has taken on the fervor of religion. When you start talking about somebody's God and either going to heaven or going to hell, like that's some serious stuff. And so it's like politics. It's like, what side are you on? What do you believe? You know, if you don't believe what I believe, I don't know if I have to somehow deal with you. That seems to be the attitude that I've been picking up lately. Now, something else the media likes to push out there to people is how we have a problem with systemic racism in this country. And, you know, look, if you've got a problem with health that is systemic in nature, it means it affects your entire body. Maybe it's cancer, maybe it's pain. And if we're talking about racism in a culture and in a society, it means that it's everywhere, and it would be keeping people from achieving what their dreams are. And this just isn't the case. I mean, look, black people have come a long way over the past 60 years, you know, much different from when my parents were growing up in the 50s and 60s, where black people had their own bathrooms. I mean, it sounds like a disgusting world that doesn't even make any sense, but it once existed. You know, there was a time when we celebrated in the late 40s the first black baseball player. You know, it sounds crazy. Black people dominate sports. People of color dominate sports, and we love them. You know, companies, they hang their brands, their, you know, reputations on endorsements with black celebrities and black stars because they know that we love them. You know, we love them in music and film. I mean, look, we love Biggie Smalls and we love Tupac Shakur. Well, you know, maybe not for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but that's not because of their color, right? And of course, let's not forget, we elected the very first black president of the United States about 12 years ago. I mean, so many people loved Obama that they re-elected him for a second term, 8 years total. You know, a society with systemic racism simply would not allow this kind of thing to happen. You know, what about Morgan Freeman? As a matter of fact, the actor Morgan Freeman, he was on CNN with another fucking resident meatball talking about this, and he was talking to Don Lemon like, look, man, look at us. Look at what we achieved. A great interview. As a matter of fact, I got a playlist that's going to have some Dennis DeYoung stuff, but it's also going to have a bunch of other things for you to check out that kind of goes with what I'm talking about here. Lots of great interviews and pieces for you to see that kind of show you that this is a false narrative that's putting out there. Now, look, is there racism? Sure. Always has been, always will be, like cockroaches and Keith Richards. You know, but look, this is something that you change in people's hearts. This is a heart problem, okay? This is not something that you can fix by passing a law, raising money, certainly not ripping shit apart and vandalizing things. That's not how you solve anything. How about if we stop referring to people as a color? Wouldn't that be cool if we can stop saying white guy, black guy? Like, what difference does it make what color somebody's skin is? It's almost as shallow as talking about what kind of clothes that they wear, you know, those jeans people or whatever. Let's start just talking about people according to their character. Martin Luther King, he even talked about judging people by their character instead of the color of their skin. You know, and something else on the news that's real ridiculous that needs to stop is this talk about the black vote. You know, like all black people think the same way and vote the same way. Like if we just dangle this carrot in front of them, then they'll just vote a certain way. It's condescending, it's disgusting, and it's also racist, and it needs to stop. You know, a lot of times I talk to people about this kind of thing or about the media and how they manipulate people and how they're also owned. And the best that some people can do is just go, what? And then that's when, you know, hey, I got to channel Samuel L. Jackson from Pulp Fiction. You know what I'm talking about, when he busts into that guy's place and has to take care of him. The guy is so scared that he just keeps saying, oh, what? What? And Samuel L. Jackson is like, say what again, motherfucker? You know, all these grand illusions and grand delusions, they're just dumbing us down. You know, we've swapped critical thinking for parroting what we hear from other people, from the meatballs and the Barbie dolls. You know what? Whenever I think about what's going on now, I think about this movie that came out in 2006, Idiocracy. You ever heard of this movie? It was made by the guy, Mike Judge. He did Beavis and Butthead, except this is a real movie. It was about this guy who was frozen as part of a secret military project. It was only supposed to last for 1 year, but something happened and he wound up staying frozen for 400 years. And he wakes up to a world filled with fucking idiots. And he winds up being the only, they deem him as the smartest guy on earth and look to him to save them. And I have a feeling if they did a sequel to this movie, all they got to do is just have a reality show. Either that or just remake Escape from New York. That should probably do it. All right, so before I wrap up this video, just thought I'd give you my quick thoughts on Dennis's latest solo album, 26 East, Volume 1. And as I had figured, this is his strongest solo album to date by far. His last album, 100 Years From Now, was also good, but this one I think is a lot more memorable, more engaging, and I think fans will really, really like it. They seem to be responding to it very, very well so far. The album's been doing fairly well in sales, and I think the album starts off very strong. You got East of Midnight, With All Due Respect, and A Kingdom Ablaze, which when I heard this song, it had some different textures going on sonically. I thought, wow, if the rest of the album's like this could be a really solid album. However, after that, there's about 5 songs in a row that are a bit cliche and schmaltzy and not really to my liking. I could see why, Tommy or JY would hear these songs and not like them for a Styx album. This not my style of Dennis, but he ends the album on a high note with To the Good Old Days, which is a duet that he does with Julian Lennon. I know that must have been a real high for him to work with John Lennon's son, because Dennis, of course, a big fan of the Beatles. And if you haven't caught the video to this song, he put one out for that one too recently. Lots of home footage, lots of personal photos of him with his family and the Panazzo brothers. It's a really cool video. Be sure to check that out. And he ends the album with AD 2020 in similar fashion to the way that he ended the album Paradise Theater, where he says this: "And so, my friends, I'll say goodbye, for time has claimed its prize, but the music never dies. Just listen and close your eyes and welcome to paradise." Perhaps a little pissed off in paradise. What do you think? What do you think about the new album? What do you think about With All Due Respect, with the meatballs and the Barbie dolls? Be sure to put it all down below. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Hit that subscribe button too. Check out the playlist loaded with videos for you. And I'll be seeing you soon, all right? Take care.